July 20th, 1969. Over 600 million people watched their television screens as a grainy black-and-white image flickered to life. A ghostly figure descended a metal ladder in slow motion. Then came the words that would define a generation. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong had just set foot on the moon, or so we were told. For many Americans, it was the greatest technological triumph of the 20th century. NASA's Apollo 11 mission had achieved the impossible, fulfilling President John F. Kennedy's bold 1961 promise to land a man on the moon before the decade's end. Flags waved, tears fell, and a collective breath of awe spread across the globe. But even as families cheered in their living rooms and newspapers roared with headlines, a tiny seed of doubt began to sprout. Why was there no blast crater beneath the lunar module? Why did the American flag seem to ripple in the vacuum of space? And perhaps most curiously, why had the footage looked so staged? Some skeptics, then and now, believe the entire moon landing was an elaborate hoax, a masterful Cold War deception to outshine the Soviet Union. Could the U.S. government have faked the moon landing? Could Stanley Kubrick, the visionary director of 2001, A Space Odyssey, really have had a secret hand in its production? As we step deeper into the mysteries surrounding that night in 1969, you'll begin to see why this question still haunts millions. But before we leap too far ahead, let's return to the beginning of America's race to the stars. Because to understand the moon landing, we first need to understand the Cold War battle that ignited it. It didn't start on the moon. It started with fear. October 4th, 1957. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, into Earth's orbit. A polished metal sphere with 4 spindly antennae, it beeped a warning to the world. America was no longer technologically superior. For the first time, the stars belonged to someone else. And in Washington, D.C., panic took root. Suddenly, the Cold War wasn't just fought in jungles or through ideology. It was hurtling overhead, in orbit. The Eisenhower administration scrambled to respond, creating NASA in 1958. Schools reformed curriculum to emphasize science and math. Billions were funneled into research. This wasn't just about space. It was about prestige, power, and proving which system, democracy or communism, could conquer the final frontier. Then came Yuri Gagarin, the Soviet cosmonaut who, in 1961, became the first human to orbit Earth. America was embarrassed. Kennedy, newly inaugurated, responded with a declaration so bold it bordered on science fiction. The United States would send a man to the moon and return him safely before the end of the decade. It was a promise not just of exploration, but of domination. In a world ruled by image, landing on the moon was the ultimate billboard. NASA's Apollo program was born out of that urgency. But it wasn't just engineers and astronauts. Intelligence agencies watched closely. Television crews were involved. Politicians shaped messaging. The moon wasn't just a rock in the sky, it was the biggest stage on Earth. And with the Vietnam War dragging morale into the dirt, America needed a win. A perfect win. And so the whispers began. Was the moon landing truly about science? Or was it a Cold War performance crafted to dazzle and deceive? Because if everything depended on perception, then maybe the illusion mattered more than the truth. But was it even possible to fake such a monumental event? And who would have the skills and the secrecy to pull it off? The idea that the moon landing was staged didn't just come from nowhere. It grew from the perfect storm of Cold War paranoia, distrust in government, and the rise of media savvy in the 1960s and 70s. One of the most persistent theories centers on the claim that NASA faked the Apollo 11 footage inside a secret studio. Rumors swirl that Hollywood's finest helped craft this historic deception. Some even point to Stanley Kubrick, fresh off his visionary film 2001, A Space Odyssey, as the mastermind behind the scenes. His film's groundbreaking special effects allegedly gave the government the technical know-how to stage a lunar landing that looked and felt real. But why would the government go to such lengths? The stakes were sky-high. The Soviets were close behind, eager to claim their own place on the moon. The Cold War was a battle of narratives as much as missiles. And with billions of dollars and national pride on the line, failure was not an option. If the Apollo missions risked failure or worse, disaster, the government might have chosen to protect its image with smoke and mirrors. Adding fuel to the fire were unexplained anomalies in the footage and photographs, shadows that seem to bend oddly, a flag that appears to flutter in a breeze despite the vacuum of space, and the curious absence of stars in the lunar sky. Critics argued these inconsistencies could only be explained by filming on a soundstage. Yet, when experts examined these claims, many found alternative explanations rooted in the physics of light and lunar environment. The flag waves because it's attached to a horizontal rod and was disturbed as astronauts planted it. The missing stars result from camera exposure settings optimized for the bright lunar surface. Shadows distort because of uneven terrain and multiple light sources, including sunlight reflected off the moon's surface. Still, the conspiracy theories endured and continue to thrive today, fueled by documentaries, books, and internet forums that question the official narrative. But was the Apollo program just a masterclass in deception? Or did the astronauts truly walk on the moon, their boots leaving footprints forever etched in lunar dust? Behind the conspiracy theories and debates, there's the human story, the voices of the men who risked everything to venture beyond our world. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins, and the many astronauts who followed are not just figures in history books. They are living witnesses to a journey that changed humanity forever. Neil Armstrong described the moon's surface as magnificent desolation, a barren, dusty landscape unlike anything on Earth. Buzz Aldrin talked about the surreal silence and the strange sensation of low gravity, where every movement felt like a delicate dance. They brought back hundreds of pounds of lunar rocks, samples that scientists have studied extensively, their unique composition confirming they came from the moon. These astronauts trained for years, enduring grueling physical and mental tests, simulations, and countless hours of preparation. They knew the risks, from equipment failures to the deadly vacuum of space, yet they faced the unknown with courage and determination. Their stories are corroborated by thousands of engineers, scientists, and mission control staff at NASA who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. The technology that enabled these missions, from the Saturn V rocket to the lunar modules, was a marvel of human ingenuity. Still, skepticism persists. Some argue that the astronauts were coerced into silence or part of a grand cover-up. But many astronauts have spoken openly about their experiences, inviting scrutiny and sharing details that would be impossible to fabricate in such depth. From the famous moonwalks to the transmissions heard live around the world, the evidence stands tall. And while questions remain about the politics and pressures surrounding the Apollo missions, the voices of those who walked on the moon remind us of one thing: the extraordinary capability of human exploration. More than 5 decades have passed since those historic footsteps echoed across the lunar surface, yet the question, did the moon landing really happen, still sparks debate. But beyond the controversy lies a profound legacy, a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. The Apollo missions inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and dreamers. They paved the way for satellite technology, GPS, and countless innovations we rely on today. The moon landing symbolized what humanity could achieve when united by a shared goal, overcoming fear and rivalry in the face of the unknown. Yet, the skeptics remind us to question authority and seek truth, a vital part of democratic society. Their doubts have pushed historians, scientists, and space agencies to provide transparency and rigorous evidence, strengthening public trust. Today, as new missions aim to return humans to the moon and eventually journey to Mars, the lessons from Apollo are more relevant than ever. They remind us of the power and pitfalls of ambition, the need for honesty, and the importance of remembering history in all its complexity. So, did the moon landing really happen? The evidence, the testimonies, and the enduring spirit of exploration say yes. But it's the conversation itself, the curiosity and skepticism, that keeps the story alive, reminding us that the quest for truth is as boundless as space itself. Thank you for joining this journey through history, mystery, and the stars. If you want to uncover more untold stories from history, hit subscribe and stay tuned.